There's a very special thing going on in this city. The last 100 years, if you think about the financial capital of the world for the last 100 years, New York City. Prior to that, it was London. Nobody ever thought anyone's going to take over London or New York City. I have a feeling what Mayor Suarez, what Miami is doing, the next 100 years potentially, Miami could be the next financial capital of the world. Now, this is my prediction on what I think is going to happen. So we're excited about it. There's something very special going on in New York. You're always welcome to come here. I know you're being recruited from all over the place. We read all about it. But yeah, you know, born and raised in Iran, one of the benefits of being raised there is you are forced to always look out on what's going to be happening. There's always surprises. We were a Christian family. My mother's Armenian. Any Armenians in the house or no? 7 of you, that's awesome.
Got a few.
Right? We need more. And then my dad's Assyrian, but David, there's going to be no Assyrians in the house. Really?
Oh.
Couple.
Front row.
Okay. So born and raised in Iran, and this is 1978, October 18th. 3 months later, revolution happens. On the way to my mother going to the hospital with my dad, it's curfew. So they hold up my dad. My dad has to show. My wife's water just broke. I'm trying to take her to the hospital. My son's going to be born. I'm born there. 3 months later, Shah's kicked out. We stay in Iran till July 15th of 1989. June 2nd or 3rd, Khomeini dies. When he dies, I'm in school called Gulbenkian. I don't know what's going on. This is no cell phone, no nothing, no text, no pagers. My parents panic. They eventually get me. We get out, and I get to the house. My mom and dad had a conversation, and they said, we got to leave. He's going to turn 12. When he does, he has to serve the military here. That was my mom's idea. And then we left. July 15th, got on the plane, went to Germany at a refugee camp, and then came to the States November 28, 1990. But the part about being in Iran and the conflict and the refugee camp, you learned how to deal with people from different walks of life. And that kind of applies into business, because when you go into the Army, 101st Airborne Division, I'm the only Middle Eastern guy there. Everybody else is looking at each other saying, where are you from? And, you know, folks from South Dakota have never seen somebody looking like this. This is not a normal face in South Dakota, you know, or Alabama. And they say, what are you? Why do you have a nose looking like that? I said, this is a legendary nose in the Middle East. They don't make them like this anymore, right? You can spend $20,000 to get a perfect nose. You're going to need to spend billions to get a nose like this. This is God-given. Anyways, so that was the part where people skills, learning everybody else's story. I was kind of complimenting Bret in the back. How many guys would agree with me on this? When there is a debate, if he's moderating, I trust he's going to be fair to everybody. Yes or no? Who makes some noise if you agree with that? The man's probably the best moderator we have every time we have elections, but I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that's good. That's good. I mean, it's about hunger and for opportunity. At 28, you ask yourself kind of who you wanted to be. And you decide you want to be a leader among leaders. And you talk about the life that you had when you were in your 20s and how you got to that crossroads where you had to kind of dig deep and figure out who you were.
It's a very good question, because when I wrote the book, Your Next 5 Moves, the one question that I've asked people over the years that there's not an answer for, it's when you live your life and you grow up, who do you want to be? What kind of a life do you want to live? Most of us don't know the answer to that question. Like, what do you mean, who do I want to be? What kind of a life I want to live? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be the #1 guy? You're the founder where all the pressure's on you. You made the wrong decision. Why did you raise the capital? Why did you not raise the capital? Why did you hire that person? Why did you allow that person to be the board? Why do we expand to that estate? That's not the good move regulatory-wise. Everything is on you. Some may like it, some may not like it. You may say, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be support. I want to be one of the executives. I want to get equity and be behind the scenes and bring value to the company. And that's my way of creating wealth and becoming somebody and making my family proud. You may be somebody that says, I'm a guy that's good on camera like you. I want to sit there and talk to people. I feel comfortable in front of camera. I'm okay with that pressure. I'm okay with the amount of criticism you get when you're on camera. And not a good question. Why did he ask this? That was not fair. You have to be okay with the level of pressure that comes with that. So for me, I was 28. It was a very weird phase of my life. I'm in a company. I'm doing very well for myself. And I go to a meeting at Miramar Hotel Santa Monica where Larry Arnn put it together. It was I want to say it was a heritage event. George Will was the speaker. So George Will goes up. I don't know who George Will is. I'm not a political guy. My parents, just so everybody knows, if you don't know, my mother's side, they're all communists, except for the grandfather that made all the millions that they spent. He was a capitalist, which I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Some tells me Miami knows what I'm talking about. My dad's side, they're all imperialists. So on one side, everybody says poor people are lazy. On the other side, everybody says rich people are greedy. And I'm in the middle. Who's right? What do I do? But long story short, when I realized for me in 2008, when George Will is speaking about politics and America and the problems we're facing in America and how lawyers are creating unnecessary laws and we're forgetting how great America is. People are afraid to get up there and talk about the fact that America is the greatest country in the world. We're kind of becoming a little bit apologetic. And he hit back. A message hit me at 28. I said, I feel like I needed this message. Then I got away and I said, okay, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to be a billionaire? Do you want to be rich? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to be a great father? Do you want to be a pastor? I went to my pastor who married my wife and I said, do you think I'm supposed to be a pastor? He says, you're definitely not supposed to be a pastor. That's not for you. And then I said, well, then let me figure out and then I said, I want to be a leader amongst leaders, period. If I lead amongst leaders, that's a very tough job because that means you have to take your parenting job seriously. That means you have to take your job seriously as a husband. It's not easy. It's a lot of pressure. As a business owner, as a content creator, when you give your opinion, there's some issues that can come back with pushback. But once that became my foundation, everything else was fairly easy.
So you're building your first company. Is there a moment where you wanted to blame circumstances and instead you said, ownership, I'm going to take this by the horns?
You don't have a choice when you're starting a company. You know, when you're in a company, you can always say, well, that's not my decision. That was a CEO's decision. Board made that decision. You know, it's not my fault. It's the market's fault. Once you're a founder and you start a business, you can't blame the market. You can't blame your executive team. You hired them. You can't blame your clients. You can't blame the economy. You can't blame regulation. You can't blame your lawyers. It all falls on you. So there comes a moment when you transition and start a company and you're a founder that all those layers you had of comfort, of leaning on somebody, is fully gone. You either take full responsibility and make it happen, or you don't. One night, I'm laying next to my wife. I come home. We're in the business for about a year and a half. I'm down to my last $13,000. I have nothing else left. I'd saved up $500,000 in my 20s. I started a business with $500,000. I'm down to my $13,000. I come home. My wife, who is like the sweetest person I met in my life, complete opposite of me. She's so nice. She doesn't like the camera. She's just a great mother. Every day works with me in the office. And she had a miscarriage. And it's the first time you go through a miscarriage. It's very difficult on the woman and the man, so we don't know how to handle it. Everyone says, well, 70% of the time you go through a miscarriage the first time, but the first time is the first time when you're going through it. And she's crying. She has no idea I got $13,000 left. I'm about to lose a contract. We're living in this community in Woodland Hills called The Summit. It's 1:30 in the morning. I go outside. I listen to my 80s music. I'm listening to Foreigner. I don't know why I was listening to I Want to Know What Love Is, but that's the song I was listening. I wanted some love from God upstairs. And I said, am I doing something wrong here? I'm working my tail off. Like, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. Why are you making it so difficult? Like, I was almost like it was pleading with your father. And then next week, we get a massive bonus from AIG. And then that allowed us to be able to pay everybody's salaries for the next 2 months. And then next, we grew. We went from having one office to a few hundred offices nationwide, 50,000 insurance agents nationwide. And then we sold it 3 years ago. Money came from Harvest and Silver Lake to a company called Integrity Marketing Group. And it was life-changing. But it was that moment where I'm like, can you really do this? Is this really for you? And then from there on, things changed.
It's amazing. You talk about being disciplined with health and money, mindset. Which of those was hardest to kind of master? What finally made it click for you?
Mindset is so challenging because you have to control your imagination of what other people think about you and what you think about yourself. And there's going to be moments where you are alone. You can't come and talk to your wife and say, babe, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not. To build something special, you will hit a wall. You can't call your father, especially if the decision, my dad wanted me to be a cop. I'm a big guy. My dad said, look, Patrick, some people are meant to be cops or military. God made you big and scary to be a cop. You'd make a very good cop. I said, you want me to be a cop? He says, you'd be a cop. I went and took the test to be LAPD. I had 16 speeding tickets at the time. They wouldn't let me be a cop. I thought it was like an advantage. I'm going to catch the bad guy. They said, no, it's a bad thing, so I couldn't be a cop. But there was a moment where when your family said, we didn't tell you to start a business, you did. Your wife is telling you, I didn't ask you to leave and start a company. We were already having a good life. Your friends are telling you, so then you're alone. And in that moment when you're alone, you're going to be tested mentally and emotionally. You either have it or you don't have it. If you break, that's it. If you don't, you don't. It's like a tryout. In football, they call it Hell Week. In business, when you go through this moment, when you're by yourself and you realize the only way to get to the next level is I have to change the way I view things. If I don't, I'm going to stay here. And it's painful because it's almost like a mode of recreating yourself. I'm good for this level, but I'm not good for the next level. That recreation mode is breaking yourself and, saying, like you look at the president today. If we're playing video games, the president is at level 100. But go to the president in 2016, or go to 2020 when all the COVID stuff was going on, how he was approaching with the media. And look how he's doing it today. He's so nimble. He's fluid. It's like he's reached a level where he knows, and he's sitting there. Maloney from Italy is asking him, so you do this with media every day? Yes, there was a hot mic. She says, I can't stand our media. He says, I talk to them every day. We're witnessing what he's gone through with the levels he's got, where you heard the news today. I believe they're getting closer to finishing up the deals for the tariffs, which is unbelievable news if they pull that off. But yeah, you have to get to a moment where you're by yourself, and in that moment you really realize if you're ready for the next level or not.
Well, you kind of answered there, but you've interviewed countless high achievers. Is there one thing, one common habit you notice of those who manage to evolve and not like hit a plateau?
It's funny you ask that, because I'm having a conversation with Brady or the late Kobe and a lot of other people, but when you look at the Brady, who 7 championships and he had to overcome all these things, the pattern I notice is the following. Number one, those who go to a point where they can handle pain, they've had 2 types of people in their lives. One is a person that gives you unconditional love, that you can't do nothing wrong in their eyes. Typically, it's a mother. No matter what you do, don't worry. Oh, baby, I love you, but I did something wrong. I love you, baby. You're my son. Like, wow, what a weird human being. No, that's called unconditional love, right? Number 2 is a person, Bret, that no matter what you do, you're never going to win them over. I just got a degree. Yeah, but Johnny was a valedictorian. I just graduated law school and I passed my bar exam. Yeah, but he's already at the top of his class. It's like the movie Judge. I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Judge with Robert Downey Jr. and Duvall. That one scene, do you realize I finished this, and that? You realize? And he says, you know what? And that's emotional moment that they have together. So unconditional love, no matter what you do, you will never win them over. Ever. You will never win them over. And last but not least, you have to choose your enemies wisely. I think too many times people don't choose their enemies wisely. It's super critical. You choose an enemy that's a low-level enemy below you, you're going to work backwards. You choose an enemy ahead of you that brings out the best in you, you're going to see a different side of you. So that's what I would say, those 3 things.
The other thing you said, and you've talked about this, that's great stuff. You've mentioned that the busiest, most successful people you know are the ones that get back to you the fastest. They answer you the quickest. That's a unique thing. I mean, people could let a text message stay for days without answering it. But they're the ones that get back right away.
That is such a crazy thing. So the other day, wild story, I'm on Jesse. And I do Jesse's show.
Jesse Waters.
Jesse Waters, friend of yours. You guys work together. And at 1:15, I get a message from Natalie, president's assistant. They're on the way back from the Middle East. She says, the president just wanted me to tell you that you did a great job tonight on Jesse. At 1:15, this man is 79 years old, negotiating deals on the other side, and he sends a text message at 1:15. Then I respond back and say, thank you, please give the president my very best. She sends that text message, sends it back with a message from the president that Barron was right about you with his famous signature on the bottom. He doesn't have to do that. But think about why he is in the position that he is. Because remember back in the days when we used to date, you know, you like a girl, you get her number, what's the rule? How long do you wait till you call her back? 3 days, right? The 3-day rule, right? Adam follows the 1 month rule, but some of us, we do the 3-day rule, right? The true players go 1 month. They're like suffocating her, why don't you call me back? But that game doesn't work in life and in business. The guys I've done the biggest deals with, they're like, boom, 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 boom. And you know, nowadays you can't hide. Because if you text, what does that thing do? It starts
dots.
Yeah, like you're like, I know you saw it.
Yeah.
Why? And then 9 hours, like, don't tell me you were too busy, you're getting through it. There's a certain element of urgency. I heard Mr. Steve Witkoff talk about it when I was in the back, listening to the interview, and he said a certain level of being demanding and urgency. By the way, not everybody can work with people like that. It's not for everybody because the level of demanding is constant. And the standards and expectations are so high that most people are like, I don't know if I can work with a person like this. You're right, it's not for everybody. But to me, doers, they get back to you like this.
I will say, if I leave a text for a long time, it's rare. If I'm in the show, a live show, I'll go to commercial break and I'll answer the text. Because I do think that that makes a difference in how you interact with people.
But that's why you're in the top 0.001% of your space. That's why the greatest country in the world trusts you to moderate, because you're that. That's the point. It's hard to be that. It's not easy to be that. By the way, you know what the common, the average person would be forgiven if he doesn't get back to somebody till 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. You're at an event, but not his standard. That's their standard. You can't allow other people's standard be your standards. I always want my standard to be above everybody else's standards where people are trying to catch up to it. It's not an easy thing to do. Mark Cuban and I, one time in the middle of the night, Mark is upset at me. This was 6-7 years ago. He emails me. At 2 o'clock, we're going back and forth. Email. We have this thing that we do. Mark will DM me on X or email, and we'll go for 6 hours just fighting each other. It's a great fight. It would be such a good podcast, but it's private, right? Because we've done some things 10 years ago. I'm sitting there saying, this guy's a $6 billion guy. He's a $6 billion guy. He owns the team. He owns all these businesses. So there's something special about people that get back to you quickly.
So going back to your origin story, you went from escaping a revolution to kind of leading one, not with weapons, but with words. Let's take a look at this video. Oh, guess what? They just told me there is no video, but I'm going to tell you what this is.
It's a great, I'm like, he's so handsome. Look at him.
Look at this. They're like, there is no video. What it basically said was you have one of the hottest podcasts, and you go back and forth. You share your views. And some of the things we're going to be shown there were, some heated conversations. You get in the middle of it. But you always talk about freedom and what freedom means to you after everything that you've lived. And you have a unique perspective on that.
Yeah, there is nothing like it. I mean, look, imagine you're walking in the streets and your parents tell you, if you get pulled over by Hezbollah today, they ask you what your religion is, say, I don't believe in God. You don't have a religion. Don't tell them you're a Christian. Imagine you're raised in an environment like that. Imagine you're raised in an environment where you're living in a city called Tehran, where your mother and your sister are walking across the street to go buy tomatoes, and a little bit of hair is out. They pull aside and take your mom and sister, and you have to go with them. Imagine, just a little bit of hair is out. Imagine you're living in a city where middle of the night, alarm goes out, Tavajo, Alamat Kermes. Oh, you hear these alarms because Saddam Hussein's planes have crossed the border, and then you hear whistling sounds. 3-second pause. Boom. Boom. And then you're wondering, is the next boom you're building? and then you hear, boom, boom. That means it's over your house. And you're under the stairs with your mom, dad. You're looking at your dad is afraid. Your dad gets in the white Renault we had. And you go to a city called Karaj, that's 2.5 hours away. Then they start bombing Karaj. Then we go 5 hours away to Bandar Pahlavi. They start bombing Rasht. And you're sitting there saying, what the hell are we going to do with this? What's going to happen with this? So to me, freedom is such a valuable currency that I think sometimes we living in America, we forget about how valuable that is. If there's anything I tell you, when my wife and I, when we sold the company and money hits the account, who has sold the company before and the money hits the account? Who's experienced that before? There's a lot of wealthy people in the room here. Who knows that feeling when the money hits the account, you're like, oh my God. We're in Monaco, money hits the account. My wife and I are having the most emotional breakfast together because we've gone through so many things. And we're sitting there, I said, babe, we made money. We made real money, but today we made real money. You see the account, Goldman Sachs calling you. It's like, it's officially real money at the account, right? And you're like, okay, I want to have a serious conversation with you. What's that? We don't ever have to work for the rest of our lives. We're good. Our kids don't have to work. We're going to do a proper thing to setting up the estate planning, all that stuff. But I said, let me tell you, I'm planning on going on a 40-year run that started last July 1st of 2024, purely because of my paranoia of what could happen if they try to destroy the greatest country in the world. And you better believe they're going to try to do it. You don't think China every morning wakes up saying, what can we do to make sure that country falls? You don't think Iran wakes up every morning trying to confuse the hell out of all of us? You don't think all these countries wake up in the morning trying to pin us against each other? You don't think they want to see a civil war in the Republican Party? You don't think they want to see a civil war in America? You don't think they want to see us going at each other as if we hate each other? You don't think some of that is fabricated? You think it's real? You think it's real? I remember being in my mother's, when I'm with my mother, and one of our aunties would come. This is pre our parents getting a divorce. My parents married each other. My sister's born, they got a divorce. Remarry each other, I'm born, they get a divorce. There was this one lady, I never say her name. I would sit over there and I would watch what she would say to my dad, what she would say to my mom. You know what John bought Mary? Bought her a $10,000 necklace. How come Derek doesn't do that? Why doesn't your husband buy you that kind of a thing? And then my wife would say, you're right. You're more beautiful than her. You're more beautiful than her. He should buy you everything. I wonder how much he loves you. And I'm sitting, this lady is saying this to my mother. And then my dad, after working a 14-hour shift, leaving 5 o'clock in the morning to Karaj, would come home. And I would see my mom is just getting riled up by like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And then boom, he walks in, they get into the biggest fight. Pots flying, all this other stuff. I don't know if you've seen some legendary fights. They say the greatest debate is Hillary Clinton against Trump. The greatest debate I ever saw was in our house because there was things flying. It's always things breaking. It was so epic. It was like UFC, except it's a debate. And then I would go home at night. I'm like, that freaking auntie is causing a division in my family. You are my enemy. I don't like you. When my parents finally got a divorce, I told both sides of the family, the only people that matter to me is my mother, my father, and my sister. All of you guys are playing games. Here's the part. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to confuse. Why so many Cubans, phenomenal people from Cuba, come to Miami for freedom? Why do they come here? Why do so many great Venezuelans, I've never met a bad Venezuelan myself. I'm sure there's some of them. Why do they come here? Why do so many of these guys want to come to America? Because this is the greatest country in the world. Absolutely, hands down, the greatest country in the world. And it requires us to fight for it. You get to a certain point in your life where you have a lot to lose and you play scared. It's like, don't say that, because what if we get canceled? Don't say that. Don't say what? No, we're not playing that life. We're leaders, we're tough. We stand up, and I want to be respectful about my argument. I'm not going to disrespect you. This is what I think is going on. Like right now, Mamdani winning New York City. Everybody's like, no one's going to leave New York City. No one's going to leave New York City. Forget about who's leaving New York City. The question is, who's moving to New York City? Who do you think? The guy wants to let people out of prisons. It's a great place for criminals. The guy wants to take care of illegal immigrants. Fantastic. Go move to New York City. The guy wants to sit there and start opening up all this stuff for everybody else. What are you talking about? You think this is the right way to go? You think America, that in 249 years did what many of these countries that have been around for a couple thousand years couldn't do? You don't think that's special? This is the greatest story in the world. My goal is to see a lot of other people when events like this are happening, Bret, is for people to come in and say, you know what? I'm a good person. I work hard. All I want to do is raise my kids based on solid values. I want my kids to have their dreams to become a reality. I want to spend time with my family. I want to be free. I want to enjoy my time. And I want to be able to go to church. I want to be able to talk about things that matter to me. I want to be able to be wealthy without people judging me for the life I'm living. I just kind of want to be left alone. But if you cross the line, you're going to see a different side of me. I think that's probably what most of us have in common here.
Yeah. You're unapologetic about being pro-capitalism. In your view, what do most critics misunderstand about capitalism's moral dimension? You know, the fact that you talk about Mamdani and you talk about, you know, some of the different views about socialism. You know, President Trump calls it communism, but democratic socialism. But capitalism and your defense of it from a moral perspective.
Yes, because capitalism is honest. And here's what I mean by it's honest. If your idea sucks, you're going to go out of business. If you don't take care of your people, for instance, let's just say I don't offer health insurance and 401k and LTIP and equity, and I want to keep you. Right now, let's actually make an offer to Bret Baier. You work at Fox News. You make millions of dollars. You're a very wealthy man. The market right now is in a very bad place. Disney needs talent desperately. Disney's begging YouTube to allow ESPN to be back on there because the games they're playing. Disney created a website for people to go to lobby to allow YouTube to put their app back on. And they're saying, we don't want to do this. To the point where Pat McAfee is saying, don't get me involved. I know you're paying me. I don't want to do this. CBS right now brings Barry Weiss, right? And Barry wants to go get somebody like you. I don't blame them. Guess what's going to happen? Fox is sitting there. If I'm your agent, say I'm your agent. This is a great opportunity for me if I'm your agent. Guess what I'm doing? I'm going to say, Bret, this is fantastic. Let me make a phone call to Lachlan. I'm going to call Lachlan. I'm going to say, hey, Lachlan, Bret Baier is about to go to CBS. He's going to get a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, $75 million contract. What do we want to do to lock in the greatest moderator of our era? Do we want to lose him? No. Lock him in right now. He's not going to CBS. That's capitalism. What are you going to do? You think you're going to lose?
Are you available?
But by the way, here's the thing. Watch how this works. If they don't take care of you, how many people want you? Everybody. By the way, if New York doesn't take care of companies, where are those business owners going to go? If you're pro-family, pro-business, pro-freedom, come to Florida. What do you think happened in Chicago? I'm in Chicago at a Goldman Sachs event. Goldman Sachs was putting one of these events together where you're going and learning about G1, G2, G3, Generation 1 wealth, Generation 3 wealth. And the entire discussion was over Ken Griffin. And by the way, these are major, everyone in the room's a billionaire. There's 60 families. Everybody is talking about Ken Griffin. What happened? Why do you think Ken Griffin left? Because the weather was bad? You think Ken Griffin left because Derrick Rose got injured? You think Ken Griffin left because Sammy Sosa is no longer there and playing? Why do you think Ken Griffin left? It's because the policies forced Ken Griffin to leave. And guess who said, come here? Mayor Suarez from IAM says, come down here. And he brought his business here. Who doesn't want Ken Griffin there? So the part about capitalism that is honest, if you don't take care of your people, somebody else will. If you don't take care of your small business owners, another state will. If you don't take care of your wealthy people and you judge them every single time. I went to church one time, and I have nice cars. I don't drive anymore, unfortunately, but I have nice cars, and I would go up in my nice car. And this one guy one time comes up to me and he says, so, you like having a Ferrari? I said, I love having a Ferrari. Yeah, but do you think you're going to get into heaven with a Ferrari? I said, no, I don't think I'm going to go to heaven with a Ferrari. So why do you buy a Ferrari? Because I love Ferraris. Yeah, but that's what rich people do. I said, let me ask you a question. I'll never forget this conversation with this guy. I said, did you just hear what the pastor asked of how much money he's trying to raise for a new project? Yeah. He asked for 35 million bucks. I said, you think you're gonna raise 35 million bucks with your 3,000 members at $5 a pop? Let's do it. What's 3,000 times $5? $15,000. Let's say 50, $150,000. Go 500, $1.5 million. They're not gonna give you 500. You don't think the pastor's gonna raise $35 million by going to a person like you and saying, hey, Bret, we'd like for you to commit the next 3 years to $1 million deal. I said, be very careful judging the wealthy in your congregation, because they'll gladly go to a different congregation and give their 10%. This idea about making fun of rich people and making them uncomfortable is pathetic. New York's got the most billionaires in the world. You want to lose your billionaires? The dumbest idea in the world. Why would you do that? A person that becomes a billionaire, you think a billionaire is carrying their money cash with them? You think a billionaire's, yeah, I got all my cash here. What do you think a billionaire's money is? It's paper money. Where is the money? It's in a company. It's in a bank that's given a loan to somebody to buy a house. It's given a loan for somebody to buy a car. Where do you think money sits? You think billionaires sit in their house and they say, honey, let's count the money one more time. Go ahead. 100, 200, 300, 400. No, it's time to go back and recognize heroes. Recognize these people that won. I think it's a massive problem that we have. And by the way, I think it's starting with our education system, but I'll pause right here.
I want to talk about that.
Please.
Because you've said that capitalism rewards value creation. You're just talking about it there, not victimhood. But how do you teach that to a generation now raised on social media outrage and TikTok and everything else?
My kids, my oldest son is 13 years old. I have a 13, 12, and 9, 13-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy, 9-year-old girl, 4-year-old girl, Brooklyn, the best. She's the glue. She's funny. And there's nothing like Brooklyn, middle of the night. She's small, she's tiny, but she's the loudest, and she's got the best temper. Bad temper she's got, 4-year-old girl. 4 o'clock in the morning, this is what we hear. She runs from her room, opens the door, and she does not know how to close the door quietly. You guys know what I'm talking about? Parents know what I'm talking about. Bam! Slams the wheel, wake up, right? And then she lays next to you, and then she goes like this. Daddy, I love you. I'm like, I love you too, baby. 2 nights ago, she says, Daddy, I said, yes, baby. I have to go shopping at Target with Mickey today. I said, babe, why are you telling me 4 o'clock in the morning, right? These kids are funny. But our oldest, they get criticized at school, and they'll say, your dad's rich. You're just a rich, spoiled kid. And my kids will say, then why is it that you have an iPhone and I don't? My kids don't have iPhones. 13-year-old kid doesn't have an iPhone. He doesn't know what social media is. By the way,
now,
parents,
why did you do that?
Okay, great question. So there's when we go to dinner, I catch myself, because social media is not only addicting to kids. We think we're not victims of it. You can be 50 years old and you see going like this. My dad is 83 years old. He's on his phone all day. So this isn't like only something that's to kids. You don't need to be 18 to be addicted to cocaine or 82. Cocaine doesn't care how old you are. Do you understand what I'm saying? The same thing with phones. You read this book called Anxious Generation. Great book if you're a parent. If you have a daughter, whatever you do, order the book Anxious Generation. If you have a daughter, she's a teenager, do yourself and her a favor, order the book and listen to it, both you and your wife. You read the book and he starts talking about certain things. So I watch my kids' behavior of what they're going through. And I have very basic restrictions with my kids. We don't spoil our kids. I'm not a person that's gonna go buy you everything and anything. It's not how we are. My kids, when it comes down to phones, none of them have a phone. My 9-year-old daughter, when she was 8 years old, all her friends except for one of them had a phone. Our kids don't have phones. I'm probably not gonna give you social media, 16 years old. I manage all of my kids' social media accounts. They all have an Instagram account on my phone. I'm running it, I'm posting it. When they turn 18, I'm gonna hand it over to them. It's like, here you go, kickstart. I'm their social media manager, believe it or not. And I'm a pretty decent social media manager, right? That I'm managing this. You know why that's important? When people DM, I see the DMs. Did you understand what happened right there? I see the DMs. We sit with our kids and we'll role play Bret. I'll talk to them and I'll say, let me ask you a question. What happens if one day a kid in school, this girl you really like, she's the hottest girl in school. She wants to date with you, but she wants you to do drugs with her. Do you do it? No. Why wouldn't you do it? You want me to do it? No, I'm asking you why you wouldn't do it. Oh, I thought you want, no, I don't want you. I'm just asking, why wouldn't you do it? Why would I do it? I don't want to destroy my life. Now, what if you see your brother who's dating the hottest girl in school and they do drugs and you catch them? What do? Oh, I don't want to snitch. What do you think you do? Got to have a conversation. These are role play case studies. The same way, who has an MBA here? Who went to school and got an MBA? If you got an MBA, how many case studies did you go through until you graduated? 200, 500, 1,000? You know it, right? With kids, whenever we're out, we're always doing case studies. If your sister is dating a guy who puts his hands on her, what do? And you see they get hot. I said, what do you do? How do you handle it? If you see your teacher in school making fun of, what do? If you see somebody in school being bullied, what do? If you see your brother, they're making fun of them, what do? Do you join the crowd? Like, we have a couple rules. If my kids publicly make fun of one of my kids in front of their peers, they're not going to like me too much. You can make fun of each other when we're together, it's homey. Do it all day long. But if in public, you give those buttons that you know how to press on your brother, you do that publicly, oh, you're going to have a big problem with me. One time they did this, I brought him to the house. I said, let me tell you guys what we're going to be doing right now. So what's that? I said, right now, I got a camera here, I got a camera here. You guys got 15 minutes to compliment each other. If it's a BS compliment, you lose video games for 3 months. I want you to think about the sincerest compliment and give it to him. He gives you one, you give him one. He gives you one, you give him one. I put him in the closet, and I go take a shower. Also had some time with my wife, which is a strategy. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. When you got kids, you got kind of like, babe, this is a good opportunity, let's go. So we handle our business. We handle our business. We got 4 kids, guys. I would keep my wife pregnant for 20 years if I could, but she's done. So I come back, and all of a sudden, 30 minutes later, they're still complimenting each other. I didn't stop them. It was the best exercise. I think we have to kind of take charge today, and we can't be distracted with the stuff that we're dealing with, because everyone's trying to attack your kids and confuse them, and we got to get ahead of them. We only have them for 18 years. After 18 years, you do not have control. It's too late. Between 0 and 18, we got to be very involved.
If you could, that's good stuff. If you could redesign high school to prepare students for the real economy, what would you add? What would you remove? How would you do it?
High schools.
Well,
okay,
education.
So let's look at the problem. All right, so for us in our family, one of the most important pillars of our family is debate. Every night we debate. At dinner we debate. Everything is about debate. Our company, Valuetainment, if you come to our headquarters in Fort Lauderdale, 11 acres on the airport, you'll see the word debate everywhere. We debate things that don't even matter. We're always debating, right? But do we have that in schools today, K through 12? I say no. Why not? Let me explain to you. Do you know K through 12 English teachers, for every dollar they give to a political party, 98 cents is given to the Democratic Party, only 2 cents to the Republican Party. Where is the debate? Do you know when you go to only professors that are fairer is math. Math is 87% to the Democratic Party, 13 cents to the Republican Party. Where is the debate? There is no debate. Schools don't have debate. And these teachers have tenure. The first thing I would do is remove tenure. Let teachers get fired. Some of these bad teachers need to get fired. Why are we keeping them? Why are we so worried about firing bad teachers? If you're a bad teacher, go work at the DMV. Go make IDs. Go do something else. I've met some teachers that are horrible. There should be government employees working at the DMV with the, you can wait 2 hours. Excuse me, sir? What did you say? Get back to the line. These teachers need to go work at the DMV. It's a great career. You get good benefits from the government. You get a 457 plan. But it's not for everybody. That's one. Teachers should get fired. Bad teachers fired, about them 20%. That's not going to sit well. Watch the unions come after me. You're a horrible person. It's his fault. He asked me the question.
Sorry.
I'm just telling you what I'm thinking about, right?
Fair and balanced.
I want debate. I want recognizing and lifting up the right heroes. When you and I were kids, our parents built somebody up as a hero. And you would look up at them, right? You're like, man, one day I want to grow up and be like this person because somebody built them in heroes. Public schools, who are teachers turning into heroes? Who? They're bashing capitalists. They're bashing job creators. They're bashing rich people. They're bashing those people. And they're highlighting who? Everybody else? I think there is no debate. I would remove the bad teachers. I would talk more about who to marry, how to marry, because nowadays people have no clue who to marry, how to marry. Before I got married, my wife and I, on our second date, I went to Borders and I bought her a book. The book was called 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged. I gave it to her. I had done the exercise with that book with 3 other girls. I said, look, I have all my answers. I want you to go through it. She did. A week later, we sat down. 6 hours, we went through everything. I said, I think I'm going to marry this girl. Then we got married. So we have to teach how to marry. We have to teach about having kids. And we have to teach the tax code. Because it's important to teach the tax code early for you to understand how to vote, how to invest, start a business, what states, what is state tax, income tax. We have to really go deep into the tax code. But to do that, it's going to be challenging to do it in public schools.
I could listen to you all day. I really could. I love the stories and the advice, but if you had one piece of advice for all these folks out here, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small business owners, one piece of advice from your life experience, what would it be?
If you're talking about the one advice that I would give my kids, you know, many years ago, I was solving for what I need to do to be happy. It's like the key to life is you got to be happy. And I'm under too much stress. I want to be happy. I realized that's phony. That's fake. Happy is like, you know, if you want to see me happy, let's have a medium rare bison with some foie gras and some beef carpaccio with some nice, you know, Parmesan cheese on top of it, with a nice Arnold Palmer 80-20, 80% iced tea, 20% lemonade, squeeze lemon in it, and give me 6 people that are good people to talk, I'm the happiest person alive for 2 hours. And then it's gone. But then you go the next day, eat the same thing again, because you got to keep that happiness, right? Going every single day. But to me, what I learned is the following. There comes a point in our lives where you have a certain values and principles that you want to live by. If these values and principles that you're teaching your kids are aligned with the way you live, you're living a fulfilled life. If these values and principles that you're telling your kids to live by contradicts the way you live, you are miserable. So every time I measure myself is, am I living this life? But because if I'm acting, I'm not loose. I enjoy being loose. I enjoy being free to share my thoughts. And the only time I'm not is when these guys are fighting. So I try to do my best to live an aligned life. If you live an aligned life, you're going to live a fulfilled life, and future looks bright if you do so.
Patrick Bet-David, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Take care.
When we set out to create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed, not disposable, not ordinary. Rather, intentional, luxurious, timeless.